Thank you. We turn now to President Obama's national security advisor and former UN Ambassador Susan Rice. Ambassador, it's good to have you here on Face the Nation.
Great to be with you.
This is a historic summit. For you, what do you think the best possible outcome could be?
I think the best possible outcome is that we have more than a photo op or even a cordial conversation, but that the two leaders agree to some very concrete steps that they can then pass on to their negotiators in the form of a framework that the negotiators can then flesh out into a substantive agreement. It's going to take quite a while. This is a very complicated set of issues, and success can't be declared on the basis of a happy meeting.
President Obama liked to embrace diplomacy. Why did he choose not to try to negotiate with Kim Jong-un?
Well, in fact, there were efforts at discussions. We had them during the Clinton administration. We had them during the Bush administration. And we even had opportunities and efforts during the Obama administration. The problem is that at every turn, the North Koreans would make commitments and then break them. And we need to be mindful that that is, again, what might happen in this context.
But this is a different diplomatic structure, right? It's flipped on its head. You're starting with the leaders.
Yeah.
So do you give the president some credit for being willing to take this high level of risk?
Well, I think, it's clear that the past set of efforts have not succeeded. I am a believer in diplomacy, and I am open to new methods of trying to accomplish the consistent objective that we have of full denuclearization. I think the question is, are we walking in prepared? Are we walking in with our allies behind us? Are we in a position to understand that one meeting, it's not going to be one and done. This is the start of a serious negotiating process.
The former director of national intelligence, Jim Clapper, just wrote a book, and he was very public about what he said was his personal disagreement with President Obama's decision not to engage with Kim Jong-un in North Korea. Other Obama administration officials have told me they wish and they regret not taking stronger action. You were the national security advisor. Do you take ownership of that? I mean, do you regret not pushing harder?
Well, I think you're mixing two things. There's the question of sitting down at the negotiating table, and there's the question of pushing harder.
Right, and Clapper said engagement period he thought President Obama should have done more of.
So my view is that we did and we should have increased the pressure on North Korea incrementally. I myself negotiated 4 tough Security Council resolutions imposing increasingly harsh penalties on North Korea. My successor, Ambassador Power, did the same. Ambassador Haley has continued that effort, and we have layered on increasing pressure. I think that's appropriate. We, in fact, during the Obama administration, had the opportunity. You recall the Leap Day negotiations, where we tried to sit down and tried to work on an arrangement with the North Koreans, and they blew it up on the spot. So I don't think it's accurate to say they weren't diplomatic efforts. And in fact, Jim Clapper himself went to North Korea. The fact of the matter is that I believe the North Koreans were not prepared to be serious under Kim Jong-un with respect to sitting at the table until they perfected their nuclear program and their missiles.
So you don't think a diplomatic breakthrough would have been possible in the Obama administration because of that goal?
I think that the critical thing from the North Korean point of view was to be able to come to the negotiating table when they did come, with having demonstrated to the world that their nuclear capacity and their missile capacity has been perfected. And that's, in fact, what Kim Jong-un said.
You've been outspoken about Russia of late, and I want to ask you about something very specific here that President Trump just said. He is calling for Russia to be readmitted into the G8, which, of course, was pushed out of during the Obama administration because of their intervention in Ukraine,
their
seizing Crimea.
Of Ukraine
and
annexation of Crimea. Yes.
And so he said yesterday, again, that he would like to see Russia be part of the G8, and he basically recognized Russia's claim to Crimea as legitimate. Here's what he said.
Crimea was let go during the Obama administration, and, Obama can say all he wants, but he allowed Russia to take Crimea. I may have had a much different attitude, but so you'd really have to ask that question to President Obama. Why did he do that? Why did he do that?
Would you like to respond?
It's a disgraceful statement. The fact of the matter is Russia had invaded Georgia. It then invaded Ukraine. We rallied the entire European Union and many other partners to impose tough sanctions on Russia for its annexation. We supported the Ukrainian government to build up its defensive military capacity. And along with our G7 partners, we agreed that Russia should no longer be part of this community of the G8.
He seems to be saying, but Russia is still, it was a fait accompli.
Well, that's outrageous. I mean, the United States has long upheld international law. This was the most brazen violation of another country's sovereignty that's occurred in recent years. For the President of the United States to blame his predecessor rather than to understand that Russia is our adversary. Russia has taken on behavior that is absolutely reprehensible, including being responsible for shooting a civilian aircraft out of the skies and killing hundreds of people. For the President of the United States to suggest that all is forgotten, that that doesn't matter, that we are fine with one country annexing another country's sovereign territory and we should just welcome them with open arms back into a community of democracies, is outrageous.
It's interesting that this Russia policy has made some unusual bedfellows. In fact, Senator McCain tweeted yesterday rebuking President Trump, saying, "To our allies, bipartisan majorities of Americans remain pro-free trade, pro-globalization, supportive of alliances based on 70 years of shared values. Americans stand with you, even if our president doesn't." He's commenting on what he was upset with the president's rhetoric at the G7. Are you surprised to find yourself in agreement with Senator McCain?
No, there have been other occasions when I've agreed with Senator McCain and occasions when I've disagreed, but he is absolutely right. The United States, our leadership in the world, our national security has long depended on having close and unbreakable bonds with our closest allies. The G7 partners are our closest allies in the world. We share values, we share interests, we share security. And for the President of the United States to walk into that session and to essentially blow it up and disrespect our allies while embracing Russia and giving benefits to China, countries that are not our allies, and in the case of Russia, indeed our declared adversary, is very worrisome and very destructive. And it leaves the United States isolated in the world and our allies wondering if they can count on us and we on them.
Ambassador Rice, thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
And we'll be back in 1 minute with the president's top economic advisor, Larry Kudlow, who is just back from the G7 meeting in Canada. Despite all the smiles you see in that photo, was it as contentious as the president's Twitter feed suggests?